Hello everyone, welcome back to CoinBureau Clips. It is time for another one of our famous, or should I say infamous, CoinBureau Clips Q&As. We put out a request for questions on Instagram recently. Loads of you have responded. Very kind as always, much appreciated. So my team have gathered a few choice questions for me to answer today. So without further ado, let's jump in. Magical CB, I presume that stands for Magical Coin Bureau. Obviously. They ask, who would your top 5 most influential people in crypto be? Okay, you might remember that actually here on Clips, we covered an article from a UK publication recently that named the top 20 most influential people in crypto, and no one had ever heard of any of them. So here are some people who I think are influential in the crypto space and who you definitely will have heard of. So first up, we've got CZ, obviously CEO of Binance, a controversial figure because of Binance, but he's also, not only is he the CEO of the largest crypto exchange there, but obviously he's also very active on Twitter. He's very outspoken as well, and I think he has a huge influence over the entire sector in many different ways. So he'd be one of my top picks. Also, Brian Armstrong, for similar reasons. I think as well, because SBF is now happily out of the way, I think the chance is there for kind of Brian to step in and be crypto's representative on Capitol Hill. And I think the fact that he heads up the biggest exchange in the US, obviously the most regulated exchange in the US, I think he could be the ideal person to represent the crypto industry in front of politicians and try and change the narrative a bit more, because he's, a real American success story. And I think politicians in the US would really respond to him. Another person who is very, very influential in crypto, unfortunately, is Gary Gensler, the chairman of the SEC. I think he could become the most influential person in crypto this year. This is obviously because the SEC is coming down hard on the crypto industry. And yeah, I think Gary is going to have a big effect, not for the right reasons, unfortunately, not for the reasons that we would like. Another person who I think is really, really influential, especially so over last year and hopefully this year as well, is Zach XBT. If you haven't heard of them, whoever they are an anonymous sleuth on Twitter, and they have done an amazing job of exposing loads of scams and general ne'er-do-wells in the crypto space. They've done amazing work. They were also cited or sort of referenced in the recent Chainalysis crypto crime report for 2022. And basically it stated that Twitter sleuths, Twitter investigators had a big positive effect on crypto crime, on the amount of crypto crime specifically related to money laundering that happened last year. So I think Zach XBT definitely deserves a mention. Hopefully they will be as busy this year, although I think they have said that it's pretty exhausting doing what they do. And the final person in the top 5, I think, who would be influential, I would say someone like Vitalik. I think just because he's so visible, he's so well known. Obviously, he is still the kind of de facto head of Ethereum. That said, I guess Ethereum is becoming, especially that dev community, it is becoming sort of more and more decentralized, I think. So you could argue that perhaps Vitalik is having less influence in that regard. But I think still what he says and does and writes about, he's still a very influential figure. So those are 5 influential people in crypto, according to yours truly. Lots of debate around that point. It's a very, very good question. Okay, Time Lord Deswin asks, what do you do now that you wish you had done sooner? Ooh, that is a good question. That's quite a soul-searching question. I should probably say something like buy Bitcoin, but no, I think some of the things that I've started doing, I guess, more recently that I've found really helpful are things like focusing more on sort of daily routine, and things like sleep and exercise and trying to eat well. And I've sort of done those kind of on and off throughout my life, but I'm much more focused on it now. And you could probably argue that that's mostly to do with the fact that I'm just getting old and I'm constantly reminded of that. But yeah, I do feel that sort of being quite militant about how much sleep I get and all this sort of stuff, it does work. So I wish I'd done that more, and then maybe I would look younger than I already do. Okay. Next question comes from VEE. Interesting. How can developing countries benefit from pursuing financial freedom by means of crypto? This is a really good question. Gosh, it's an involved one as well. Developing countries and financial freedom through crypto. Okay. I think a good place to start would be something like remittances. Obviously, remittances forms a huge part of the sort of global economy of the economy of developing countries. Huge amounts of money are sent back to developing countries every year by their citizens working in other countries. And at the moment, the remittance system, through these big centralized companies, the likes of Western Union and MoneyGram, that takes an enormous cut. Crypto is a so much more efficient way of doing that. So I think for these developing countries to encourage their citizens abroad to use crypto for remittances, I think that would get a lot more money back to the people in those countries who really need it. So remittances would be one. Gosh, there's so many ways to sort of look at this question, so many ways to answer it. I think also the fact that this can be a bit cliched, the fact that crypto promotes financial inclusion, banking the unbanked, all that sort of stuff. But I think there is still a huge gap to be filled. I think there are still so many people in developing countries who don't have access to financial services. Banks aren't interested in servicing them, and crypto can step up and get those people into the economy, get those people using crypto, being part of the economy of those developing countries. And also, I think crypto can do great things for weaning countries off dollar dependency as well. Remember, so many countries, El Salvador is a good example, have been historically kind of tied to the US dollar. That means they're obviously tied to decisions made by the US, by the Federal Reserve, etc. And we've shown that they have been impacted by money printing, by the constant money printing that's gone on in the US. So I think crypto can offer a way for these countries to wean themselves off dollar dependency and wean themselves off the dependency on perhaps other fiat currencies as well, perhaps noticeably their own, which obviously when we talk about money printing, the US is not the biggest offender in that regard. So yeah, I think those are three reasons, but gosh, there's so many more ways. There's so much deeper you can dig into that. So thanks for that question. Jackie Cookie asks, are you waiting to allocate your 36% USDC into something? And what would it be? Love from the UK. Thank you. Love back to the UK. Yes, I certainly am waiting to allocate that 36% USDC. That's the amount of my portfolio that's currently made up of USDC. What would it be? That's the big question. So this is a roundabout way of saying, what are you going to be buying? Well, firstly, I'm definitely going to look to pick up more BTC and ETH if the price goes lower. But obviously, you guys want to know what altcoins I'm going to be buying. And that is an answer that could take hours and hours because there are so many that I'm looking at. I also hold things like DOT and Atom. I would almost certainly be looking to allocate more to some of them because I think they're great projects. I will be generally looking to just broaden the portfolio as well. So I mean, there are all sorts. I might broaden my layer one exposure. So I think I can see myself allocating to something like ADA. I might buy back into Avalanche at some point. I sold out of AVAX a while back. I've just never quite timed my move into AVAX quite well enough. So maybe this time I'll get it right. What else? Oh God, there are so many. I've said before that I'd be interested in getting into Monero. I like Monero. Monero's just been banned here in the UAE, so maybe I shouldn't say that. Anyhow, there are lots and lots of different alts that I'm going to be looking at, and I'll share some of those nearer the time. I don't think it's the time to be buying alts at the moment, so I'm going to be sitting on that USDC for a while, I think, certainly. Okay, Mephistos 2012 asks, is the next CoinBureau meeting going to mark the bottom of the bear market as I predicted? So the next CoinBureau meeting is on the 10th of June. in London, the next CoinBureau event. Is it going to mark the bottom of the bear market? I think the bottom will be in by then. Do I want it to mark the bottom of the bear market? That would be, I don't know. I don't think we really want that to happen because the mood might be quite down. But I think the bottom will be in by then. I hope the bottom will be in by then. Mephisto's, if that is we won't know on the day, will we? But if crypto is absolutely in the toilet on that day, lower than it's been, then you can be said to have predicted it correctly. Okay, the Punk Monk asks, is recession cancelled? This is interesting because I've been pretty sure for a while now that a recession was on the cards. And it just doesn't seem to have quite manifested itself yet, which is a surprise. It's a surprise to me. It's a surprise to a lot of people. Does that mean it's cancelled? Not necessarily. I think we could still see a recession. Obviously, some economies are in recession. Other economies are almost certainly in recession and just not admitting it or massaging the data. We did last year see 2 negative quarters of economic growth, which means a recession technically. That was in the US. Is recession cancelled? No, but it does seem more likely that we will avoid a recession in general in the United States and elsewhere. Is it cancelled? No, I think there's still a very good chance. Wait and see. Okay, Mere Faisanism asks, is DCG Catalyst still on the cards for a leg down? So I think this question is the whole situation with DCG, could that still pull the crypto market lower? I think DCG is priced in. Obviously, there are still concerns that DCG may go bankrupt. This is looking less likely. DCG is certainly not out of the woods yet, that's for sure. But I think the market seems to have priced it in. Again, this is something that surprised me because I think if you'd said to us a year ago, DCG could be looking at possible bankruptcy, the market would not have taken that well. I guess after FTX, anything seemed possible. So I think DCG is priced in. Jose Nuno Alves says, shave the beard. Do you hear that, folks? The beard is not popular. Oh dear. I like the beard. The beard has generally been getting good feedback, Jose. Apparently more good feedback than bad feedback, so it stays. But don't worry, I'm not going to let it get really long and ZZ Top-like. So I'll trim it. How about that? Is that a good compromise? I'll keep it trimmed. Okay. And one BMX asks, do you believe the SEC pays attention to your crypto insights to identify weaknesses? Wow, I like the idea that at SEC headquarters in Washington or wherever it is, they have TVs up and Gary Gensler comes out of his office and says, hey guys, everyone be quiet for a minute. CoinBureau is on TV. There's the latest episode. I want to see what he has to say. That's my Gary Gensler impression, by the way. I know it's not very good. No, I don't. I like the idea that the SEC would be watching our videos for insights into crypto, but I don't think they are, partly because they just don't seem to understand crypto at all. So if they were watching, they're obviously not paying attention. And also because I think they've just got other things to do. But hey, if any of you know people from the SEC, if any of you maybe find yourselves at a dinner party with Gary Gensler, maybe put him onto us and say, hey, you should watch CoinBureau. That'll sort you out. So no, I don't think so. Unfortunately, much as I like to believe that. And like to imagine it. Mode.pov asks, when will you start buying altcoins? Ooh, it'll be a while yet. I want to see some evidence, not only that the bottom is in, but I want to see some evidence that the market is in a long-term uptrend, that prices, okay, they may sort of be moving sideways, but I want to get the sense that the worst is behind us. I also want to see an improvement in not just crypto-specific factors. Obviously, I want to see how these latest enforcement actions in the US play out. I want to see the effect of I want to see what the effect of the MiCA bill in Europe might be. I also want to get a better idea of what the Fed is going to be doing. I mean, I think we can be fairly sure. The Fed has been pretty explicit that they're not planning on cutting rates this year. But perhaps I'd like to see more evidence of inflation coming down, more evidence that the Fed would possibly cut rates next year. So when will I start buying altcoins? Probably not until late second half of this year at the earliest. Okay. Ben Lingard 18. That name rings a bell. Have you sent in questions before, Ben? Have you ever thought about creating a cryptocurrency? That's a good question. We kind of had, my colleagues and I here, we kind of had a theoretical discussion about it ages ago, because you might remember that a long time ago on our main channel, I did a video about sort of what would make the perfect cryptocurrency. And that video kind of grew out of that discussion that we had. And part of that discussion was sort of like, could we launch a CoinBureau coin? You know, what would, and obviously I insisted that it would have to be called Guy Coin. What would Guy Coin look like? But it was only ever a sort of theoretical discussion. We quickly realized that actually one of the last things, if not the last thing, that someone like us would want to do is create our own cryptocurrency. Not only would that completely destroy any sort of sense of objectivity that we would have, but it would also just completely, it would just be an absolute nightmare from an administrative point, from just every sort of point of view. So short answer is yes, we did discuss it, but only ever theoretically, and you can be pretty sure that we will never launch our own cryptocurrency. That is other people's job, I'm pleased to say. Okay, last question comes from College 8. What do you miss from the UK, in brackets, if anything? Well, certainly I don't miss things like UK weather and all that sort of stuff. What do I miss? I miss lots of things from the UK. I miss my family and friends, obviously. I don't miss the weather, but I miss the English countryside. I think about that a lot. I miss sort of green country lanes and things growing in hedgerows and things like that. I miss the smell of the English countryside. My parents recently moved. They were in South London for years and years where I grew up. They then moved out to the countryside sort of near London, and it's really beautiful around there. We stayed with them over Christmas and it was lovely, and I miss that. But yes, most of all sort of friends and family and things like that. But obviously I'll be back in the UK in June for the CoinBureau event. So I'll be able to catch up on all these things there. So it won't be too far away. Okay, that's it for the questions today, folks. I've got lots of other videos to get on and shoot, so there'll be more coming your way soon. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Please do keep an eye out on Instagram as well, because we do these Q&As fairly regularly, and I always enjoy seeing your questions. So keep your eyes peeled. Thanks for watching.